All right, we are live, and to the real ones who commented on the previous post, somebody asked me. I don't remember your username at the very moment because I'm not looking at it, but there's a topic you wanted us to talk about, so I thought I would talk about it because I have some ideas about it, and that was martial arts. Martial arts and things like I think it was like karate or kung fu. Um, But what I wanted to talk about with those is that they are, in the words of Jung, similar to yoga in that they are natural catatonic um, body poses. Like the mudras draw from positions that had been made, by cavemen. All humans had made these postures. And so when you engage in a posture, your energy is being directed in a natural form. I find that really fascinating.
This makes me think of an interaction I had with this guy named Boogaloo Shrimp. He is a famous breakdancer from, I believe, the 90s. He was in anything you can imagine about hip hop when it was first burgeoning into like popular culture. He was the black kid who would fucking like pop and lock it and spin on his head and do all this shit. And he was like super famous around the world, came to speak in one of my classes. And I he was talking during his thing about like the universality of movement and particular poses and how much he learned in Japan and India and all these places. So I kind of like go up to him after to just like, I was very much into this like concept of, at the time I was like, the dab is the universal meme. It has transcended the globe. So I was like talking to him about this stuff and he just had no fucking clue what I was talking about. And
Oh,
he was like, he was clearly like a very sociable person, but he was it felt like he was almost like in presentation mode and was just like, yeah, whatever you're saying, okay. But
I did that. I did that with fucking military intelligence that came to advertise at our school, and it was unfortunate. There was
I, those types of interactions can be really great though. If you come at someone with some like weirdly niche stuff, like 1 out of 5 it sticks and it's like you know that person for life now.
I did that with. There was also a Stanford guy who was trying to do mathematical analysis of every fairy tale, which I thought was really fascinating and like kind of. I guess a lot of work now is just rediscovering Freud and Jung through Mr. Science, and that was part of what he was doing, I think.
I think yeah, no, I said this on the podcast at one point, but I definitely think like the next in the paradigms of science, particularly in relation to like neuroscience and the mind, it's going to like definitely angle back to just regurgitating Freud. Like we're post Freud, but there will be people will be like, oh wait, neuroscience explains like I knew this professor who is doing this research on effectively, okay, Huber and Weisel. I'm completely butchering these names. Hubner and Weisel. They did some groundbreaking research on like inside of the eye. There are these particular layers inside of like the neurons that process light that have like feature recognition stuff where it's like, oh, this direction and this direction, so we can composite shapes as they come in. And his research, this professor was like completely against that. And he's like, we know these shapes before they even come in. It's like it's being slotted. And I came to him at the time and I was like, this was after one class with him. I'm like, this has to be like collective unconscious things. Like there's these things that it's being linked to, the shapes, these primordial shapes that we already have cognizance of that it's being sorted into. And he's like, well, that's kind of unfounded, but and
Like, well, unfounded until you found it again. Hello, Caitlin. Hello, Kristen, and I think Brennan. The real ones are out. But there is one thing I got. A do you sacrifice children in reference to the video I put out yesterday, because that's the joke that Crowley uses to refer to masturbation. He says that he sacrifices children. Um, and I was looking at the NoFap subreddit today, and it was just striking to me, like how cringe it is, because there were some comments, and I thought, maybe I'd done my readings, I'd done my research, but maybe I misrepresented them a little bit. But I went on, and I was wrong. I had represented them perfectly. The unbelievable amount, what their meme, they have a meme, and it is the word resist. And like, yeah, not in like the Democrat resist by doing exactly what the establishment wants, but a resist that is anytime you feel sexual, resist. And it's like, this is something I've talked about for a while now, actually. It's something that I learned about from Umberto Eco's book on ugliness, which I highly recommend. Maybe I'll try to fucking throw it up. Let's see. We'll get the On Ugliness PDF. But I talked about this back in the video on Martin Cabello. The Martin Cabello video I found to be very fascinating. Or no, I didn't find my own video to be fascinating. I found this idea fascinating. All right, it's not working. But either way, what Umberto Eco had to say is that that there were Catholics and priests who would project images of death and rotting corpses onto beautiful women anytime they saw a beautiful woman, to prevent any desires. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's the way that they treat pornography, and they treat their own natural desires. It is a deeply like Christian schizophrenia. And I like it. I think it's really fun. It's amazing to see these kind of religious ideas form. But let's see. We got Netflix and internet analysis. Netflix. One of my personal jokes is that eventually there's going to be a massive lawsuit against Netflix for damaging the youth. Probably against Pornhub too. That it'll be like a class action lawsuit against all streaming services.
I think, maybe this makes me think of two things. One is Big Mouth and Sex Education are two very popular Netflix shows, which have come under an enormous amount of fire by agents of the right than people who are just like critical of providing sex education to children too young. But that's one angle I could see things coming at. The other is like touching back on some of the science of nofap, because that's what they always like. It needs to default back to some sort of skewed doctor science, because you go ask most doctors and they're like, oh no, watching porn is completely healthy. That's a bit of a bait and switch, though. I think excessive porn use is definitely not something many people would recommend, but there is a sort of weird social connotation to all sex work must be the best thing ever. We can never criticize any forms of any of this presentation of what sex is supposed to be. But one of the things they talk about is like excessive exposure to like a ton of potential mates can kind of like override some sort of like primal part of your limbic system. And it's like, holy shit, I'm having sex with like 10,000 women or 10,000 men right now. They're everywhere. And I could see there is some credence to the notion of just like getting internet sick off of these varying things you can expose yourself to. But the ends they take it to...
That is not what they are talking about, though, at all. They focus entirely on this idea of physicality. And so most of it is really just like, oh, I'm a bad person because I jerk off, and as if, again, like I said in the video, like video games are probably a much bigger problem for these people. There are probably way more video game addicts who play for way longer, because that's another problem. You jerk off, and it's I guess for some people it'd probably be fairly brief, but you have to put in the effort and the time to be like, I'm going to jerk off like 5 times today. But a video game can take up like half a day easily for people. They play and play and play. So I think there's a big difference also in like, how much time am I going to waste? There's so many time-wasting forces, though, of course.
I I think the response to this kind of like the what the internet has presented them is excessive, but I understand the like prognosis of there being issues that arise in the psyche. I just it really feels like a lot of is this weird like Christian morality and projection that occurs on r/nofap, and it's things alike where they all want to feel guilty and they all want to like it's like you come back to the church and everyone's like, brother, it is okay, you have failed, but you will you will be redeemed in the eyes of the fapstronauts.
And that was a point that was made in one of the comments that was accusing me of not understanding it. But they were confused by my use of magic. They're like, I think it was a question of like, how do you not like Christianity, but you still think there's spiritual stuff, which I don't know how you'd even get to at this point when everybody else is pretty much in that boring realm of like, oh, I'm spiritual, but I don't believe in God, blah, blah, blah. Lame garbage. But he was like, yeah, most of the founding NoFap people are major Christians. And it's like, oh, thanks for thanks. Now I'm right. I knew I was right about it, but pretty much directly out. But all right, now we have to, and you know what, actually we can't give attention to the trolls. But let's see. All right, I had another point now that you had brought. I don't know when it was brought up, but it had to do with aliens. I want to talk about the flaws, and this is like my because this is what got me into a few things when I was younger. I started watching Ancient Aliens, and now I was really into mythology and I was really into aliens as a kid. Both of these were two of my interests. And so when that show like brought it together, it was like, it was mind blowing, because that like tied everything in my life together at that time. Because I wanted to be an archaeologist, or I wanted, and I was very deeply interested in being abducted by aliens.
That's what guy. Okay, fuck. You could do some shit on /X. That's like it's like you could prime yourself. There's particular rituals if you want to get fucked by a succubus. If you want to get probed in the.
There's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is a meditation you do to invoke an alien, a UFO experience. So the thought, though, is that, and I've realized it's a huge problem, and it's a similar thing that Christians do. So the ancient alien people say, oh, here are angels, and here are old gods. These angels and these old gods are actually aliens. They were aliens all along. They were like everything spiritual ever, that was aliens. And when I got into Jung, I realized very quickly, like, oh, all that phenomena that I thought was proving aliens was proving something entirely different. But then for what Christians do, Christians see like fairies and elves and any kind of gods in the past, and they say those were demons. These are demons, and the aliens, these are also demons. So it's really a question of on the timeline of sugarcoating phenomena. If you're a Christian, all things have been Christian. If you're Dr. Science, all things are moving backwards. All things have been just hallucinations or aliens. But what does matter is what's really real is that they're both the same exact thing. They're both energetic expressions of one thing, taking on different forms throughout history.
I'm really still fascinated by a lot of the it's not ancient aliens per se, but it's like ancient civilization stuff. I think some of that is incredibly compelling. I don't know if I ever want to like fully integrate that into too much of the content output, because I feel it's like it is are you familiar with Graham Hancock? I think I asked you this at
Mhm.
one point. That whole realm of thinking where the mother civilization, just kind of like these lines to things happening 12,000 years ago. I think that's there's a lot of questions certain things raise, particularly ancient monuments, but it is like the hardest thing to present as a case to anyone because it very
I don't
immediately
know.
upsets.
I think it's pretty clear if you look at it. I don't think it's I think it is frightening. Yeah, I agree it's frightening, but I think it's very true. Um, I think that the collective unconscious stores it though as well. Um, you have a great line in Books of Magic by Neil Gaiman, which talks about how Atlantis is in all of us. And I think that that's true. I think many of the secrets of these ancient civilizations remain in humanity. And I think that what it speaks to, and I think what Nietzsche is absolutely correct about, what Crowley is right about, is that humanity and the life on Earth is a process, and it is moving towards something. But just a point that I want to make for some of the people in the comments who are talking about you know, masturbation and magic and what use do games have. Um, you cannot be addicted to video games. You cannot live in the world of fantasy and do magic. If you live in fantasy, magic is impossible because you have no grasp of reality. And this is the majority of people who try to do magic. They're already schizos. They are already living in a world where reality doesn't constitute anything. So you have to be based to do magic. You have to fully grasp a personal reality. This is why, for example, Goethe lived a very mundane life as like a librarian clerk so that he could produce brilliant work. Of course, there's the alternative. You can live an extreme life, but magic in that case is often going to be something to settle you down and to base you and to allow you to maintain life. So really, I think you cannot play video games, which are already, a denial of reality, and do magic, unless it is a game that is especially built to be relatively educational, something that bases you in real working, which I think is why, to some extent, VR and simulators, like we were talking about yesterday, have a lot of potential. But if you play video games, I think generally you can't do magic. If you are addicted to anything, it's going to be very difficult to do magic unless you can utilize it.
I'm getting caught reading these the instant feed comments. One question I had though, I don't doubt like the mythic power of Hyperborea and fucking Atlantis and the varying abstractions for the mother civilization, but on a grounded note, do you think I've met archaeologists, like I've met one of the dudes who's like helped write Graham Hancock's book, who went to the Sphinx and dated the geological watermarks on it to not match up with like the period it's claimed to be in. I mean, I think do you think there's any reality to the claims of like there being some sort of I don't know, do you know Göbekli Tepe? It's like a temple.
I think that they're materially real, yes, and I do think that there were past civilizations, but I also think that dinosaurs are dragons. That's what I'll say. Okay. Yes, but all of these things play an important spiritual role, and they only exist insofar. Undead Ocarina Gamer, you've been commenting too long. You have a neurosis. You should try to see a psychoanalyst, but I can no longer bear your addiction to illusions, and I'm not going to humor it anymore. All right. I feel bad, but like I have to do it to him. But I thought somebody said, can we do a little, or can I give an introduction to magic? Do you mind? We'll do a little introduction to magic.
Go ahead.
All right. So what I would suggest is this just came to me when somebody asked that. So we'll take a book of matches. And this reminds me of something that I'd said in an old live stream years ago with Elliot Rosenstock. I don't know if you've seen any Elliot Rosenstock stuff, but we talked about the tarot cards, and we talked about the magician. The magician card, he has all of these suits, all the magic weapons at his whim. And so he's playing with a full deck, and that is the role that the tarot reader takes on. The cards are meant to be a microcosm of the world itself. So he's playing with the full deck. So we have to take a book of matches, and this book of matches is our deck. And so we have to take a match. Now, this match is going to be our wand. It is going to be an emblem, an incarnation of our will. What is that will? What is that will, Blair? What shall we strike our wand toward?
I find the best one to start with is clarity, to see what is around you and see within.
Then I will say, with this match, we shall strive clearly for clarity, and in doing so, its fire will burn away all impurity of our sight. So mote it be. And also something that I've noticed, even if it doesn't light the first time, what Manly P. Hall says, and I found this to be very beautiful, is that salamanders, which are fire spirits, they always take 2 times to summon. Yeah. All right. There we go. And so we will allow, the will for clarity to make itself heard. There it is. When you see what's at the end of your fork.
I just actually noticed the Undead Ocarina Gamers thing right as that ended, and picked up. I was subconsciously processing what was happening in the chat, but now I understand. What is there to talk about? What is happening inside of the? I have a quick aside, because I posted on the the Meme Intelligence Agency Instagram account about a post I saw on r/enough Peterson spam, and I've been picking up on this tab because there's been a recent spike of memes about Michaela Peterson, because she made this really long post about an anniversary with her husband or boyfriend, who's this Russian dude. And inside of this long text, she says, he told me he had a demon inside him named Igor.
And that he's a Stalinist.
And it's just never addressed again. But I have been noticing a massive influx of Peterson hate. And it is oh man. I don't think Peterson has contributed all that much in terms of unique intellectual property towards much of anything. He's been a good re-articulator, and he's been a good father figure for some people. But the emotional circles people go through to justify their hatred for him without ever actually contending with any idea he says is probably one of the most amusing things I see online. And this is, again, coming from someone I don't really even I don't consider myself a fan of anything. I think he has some nice advice for people to get their shit together, but it's very interesting to watch all of this. Have you spoken about Peterson at all, or
just a bit? But what I will give is this. But quickly, I'm just going to answer a question. I will never do D&D here, because we're going to do real magic. D&D is just a stepping stone for people to do real magic, like Christians were afraid of in the 80s. But on Peterson, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the Peterson question versus Marxism, and I was thinking about how Peterson obviously has a huge impetus for self-reliance, and do you know Isla, the girl, the porn girl
Yeah.
who Justin Murphy interviewed?
Mhm.
She had a really interesting question on her Twitter, which is I'd highly suggest everybody to check out her Twitter. It's really fascinating. But she asked, in this world, would you want to convince way more people that their misery is their own problem? They put their responsibility on themselves, or get more people to put responsibility away from themselves. And I think obviously more people would want people to blame themselves and to improve themselves, because it would lead to a better world. And I
Mhm.
was thinking about, because I know plenty of teen commies and stuff. I have very little sympathy with people that are Marxists without any Freudian leanings, because you are hopeless. You will never understand why it doesn't work. But you know, if you really do, if you're committed to materialism, you know, what in your life happens that you can't blame on capitalism? When is something your fault? Is your messy room capitalism's fault? Most will say yes. Most cannot grasp that individual existence. And I think there was a post or a tweet from a friend, um, and he said that it was about that thing that I sent you, the star seed,
Mhm.
who is, I think we talked about this in the podcast, but the star seed who is saying like, "Oh, I'm so unique. It's so hard to be me. Oh, blah blah blah." And of course, you have people that are that way, but they do nothing because it's a false individualism. And he says like the really woke thing is realizing that everybody feels this way. Everybody thinks they're unique. That's why we need to work together. And I thought, well, yeah, most people do end up feeling that way where they work together. But the people that lead and direct the world are the people who never outgrew that infantile narcissism, but rather compounded it and made it legitimate. People like Napoleon, people like Julius Caesar, who had a sense of their own value, which maybe at a time was delusion. For maybe a period, it was delusional, but through work, it became legitimate. The delusion of grandeur is only temporary when you become grandeur, when you become grand.
This it makes me think of the Pareto distribution, and it makes me
Wait,
think of
can
what
we
do you
add?
have?
Do you want to add drama mineralis? Do you want to hop on our stream? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
All right, drama. Let me know if you want to come in. If so, I'll just comment there and I'll just send it to you on Discord. That would be wonderful. But go on. Sorry.
This makes me think of the Pareto distribution, and what one facet. I'll connect this to an idea that I'll try to quickly encapsulate. But I have a sick fascination with BreadTube because they are a burgeoning community to some extent, and there's one YouTuber on it from Vietnam who has made this video, which was like the dark side of living in a socialist country, and she proceeds for like 20 minutes to basically just talk about what it's like to have a family that's like trying to give you career advice and people in your community who are concerned about your future. Nothing unique to a socialist society like this is growing up with any sort of like wider community around you who's concerned about your well-being. But I can see the cultural argument about like more collectivist cultures, but uh, there, there is. Fuck. Wait. No. Okay. Wait. Pareto distribution. I lost it. Fuck. No, okay. Wait. You just start talking about something. I'm gonna try to retrieve it. This is just
Um,
shitting on BreadTube.
do you know Waiting for Godot? Did you ever read Waiting for Godot?
Yes. Yeah.
It reminded me of that. Like, oh, just talk about something. Like, I think it's Lucky. Lucky will just like spout these wonderful, surreal nonsense blurbs. Um, I will. I'll talk about that. I used that in a song that I did years ago. I had recited. I'd recited part of Waiting for Godot, and it brought me some really fascinating people, who could recognize it. Also, Joshua, the creator of the Randonauts, he performed as the boy in Waiting for Godot as a child. He was an actor, really fascinating guy. Like, his story is unbelievable. I can't wait for there to be a book on him, and a book on the whole situation. Let me think, though. Beyond Waiting for Godot, Irish poets, Irish writers are
I got it.
superior to English. All right, go on.
Okay. There is to adhere to an ideology, you tend to like put your blinders on and take in your outside stimulus and reframe it into the narrative you're familiar with. This was the case with this woman who talked about her community and how anything she sees is immediately a reflection of what her ideology is, which is, this is socialism to me because this is socialist country. It must all bleed out like this. So what I'll say is, if you are a person who has interacted with over 30 to 40 people, you will see the range of personality distributions that can come through different people. This is, this is where you will see there are, regardless of the country, there are people with the affect of like, it is all within my locus of control. I will willpower my way through anything. Then there are people who will externalize it any chance they can get. Inside of that, you also see the Pareto comes in the fact that like there are tons and tons of people who never grow out of the delusion of grandeur, the infantile worldview, but they end up, as the king of their own miniature kingdom where, they run Mattress King and they torment the random employees, or they, end up kind of fucking doing whatever. But the Pareto distribution says like, part of the reason it's really easy to like publicly scorn that affect is like, we see the instances of success, but society is like rampant with people. I don't know how many, I can't like guesstimate the statistics right now, but there's a lot of people who continue with that affect and never get rid of it and just end up being kind of shitty to be around. But
well, and I think that this is the role that people like Aleister Crowley, Wilde, and the Decadents play, which is to heighten those things to their extreme for the purpose of grandiosity of existence. It's the person who can be satisfied by Mattress King that is a detriment to the world. But there was a question. We had a question about Millennia Thinker, who is, I fucking hate the channels who are similar, who I guess YouTube had classed me with, which I pray I can get away from. These are the most fucking idiotic, disgusting channels. I would eradicate them. And sometimes I've talked to some of the people, and I don't mean to be offensive, but they are fucking wretched. The kind of memes that have overtaken their minds have rotted them away. And this is the way that somebody who can communicate only through memes, or who chooses to propagandize through memes, their brain has been rotted away. They're no longer capable of thought. There was another good question though, which is if you're on meds, I guess you got that wonderful speediness. These people don't recognize what an energetic aristocrat looks like because you are so energetic. No, Skullfire, I'm talking about the people who run the channels. Their brains are rotted. The people who watch them religiously, their brains have rotted even more though.
I'd honestly love to speak to them on a podcast. I have the disposition that I'm willing to like speak with many of these people, at least to better understand where it is they have originated some of these ideas. I think I said this maybe in the first time we ever spoke on a live stream, I want to say it was at the beginning of the COVID stuff, but there's facets of the internet that have like kind of built these the black pill ideologies, where you basically arrange a bunch of evolutionary biology data and you just ram someone's head with it, and you're like, think about this, think about this, think about this, compare yourself with all of these things, put yourself inside of this curve. And most people can't, like, when you only interact with that, because it feels like the subversive counterculture force when everything else is like a hegemony on, COVID says, put mask on, do not question. But I am advocating always wear your mask. Wear it when you're inside too, so it doesn't spread.
Yeah, you hear about I think it was Wisconsin, they enforce you to wear a mask on Zoom. Which is, I think that's really good though. I think either the legislator is one of the funniest comedians of our time, or number two, they've gotten straight to the truth.
They're PR. It's PR. It's fucking like that's Bernard Hayes in the flesh right now. He's like, they will learn to wear the masks, and any communication, you will wear the muzzle.
Yeah, it's amazing. Let me think. Did I have any other shit to talk about? Oh, but ancient aliens, ancient civilizations. That's another problem. People, when there are ancient civilizations, more people want you to say, oh, they were just aliens. Because yet again, I think it's easier to imagine that people are a recent creation from supernatural alien beings than to say, we're probably going to experience a mass cataclysm and people are going to have to start all over again. Because that's a very frightening idea. All right, drama. I'm bringing you in.
When the Occult Hype House goes on tour, we will be going to Egypt and doing a tour of the ancient mysteries of the world. But truthfully, yeah, that is like it's a very common talking point in the conspiracy community to be like, well, it's not aliens, it's just like a mode of consciousness we can't comprehend because we've been so like hammered into things being the way they are. And I think there's quite a bit of credence to that. I think externalizing it to aliens is kind of lazy as well. It's like,
well, I think that when people talk about like extra dimensional beings or alien beings, my personal view is essentially that these are energetic. They are expressions. When Jung is talking about autonomous archetypes, he doesn't just mean it is immaterial. They don't just exist in dreams. They don't just exist in fantasies. They have material existence. They can become materialized. Drama should be I messaged you on Discord. The link is there.
What I think we need a schizo world leader.
Don't we have one? I mean,
we need like almost completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that would I think if you had the nuke button, we could get some radical change then. Someone asked, what are the best things to do during quarantine? That's yeah, go outside, go touch people and sneeze.
As many people. On Ida, I have not. I never started it. I never stopped doing stuff, and I'm fine. Yeah. I'll talk to you on what's it called, Thomas. I know we were talking about Crowley. I'll talk to you on Instagram. But at this point, what I was thinking about implementing, I get too many messages now, which sounds rude, but like I didn't know the channel would get big. There are too many people. There are too many people who message me now with shit, like with really stupid stuff. And it's like, if you're going to message me at this point now, have like an email, like a tagline, like, what do you want? Because I don't have time for everybody. I'm not trying to be mean, but like make your fucking point. Why should I talk to you? Not that I'm more worth talking to than any of your friends, but like, let's have a viable exchange rather than play with this, I don't know, small talk, which I'm not interested in small talking with any of you ever. I'm not interested in small talk ever. I'm like, like autistic socially. I have to just get straight into like, your mother doesn't love you. Were you abused? That's why I ruin parties. I'm just kidding. None of that happens. But on the internet, I am free to traumatize as I please. Drama, where the heck are you?
It's honestly coming from the perspective of establishing personas. It is a lot better if you play into the meme-induced autism. You'll see it in almost every creator. They need to function like the norms of discourse manifest in like YouTube comments and whatnot. Greetings.
Hello.
Hello, my friends.
Hello. Your mic is a little bit too loud.
How's this?
Better. How are you doing? We have
Good to see
three.
you.
We got
I feel
three best.
I feel powerful in the middle right now. I have like the central position.
Yeah, we're
will-
like a cutaway in Power Rangers.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I actually, this is an interesting idea. I saw there's this like political podcast thing happening right now. I can't remember what it's called, but they bring together like close to like 14 people on a panel discussion. And because of that clusterfuck of like audience overlap, you get, if you're aspiring to kind of like build these moments of known happenings through blood sports or whatever, that format is very conducive to growth. So this just made me think of that. If we could summon all the Power Rangers and direct, just get into some vicious argument.
Well, that's what the house is going to be. That's what the house will be. But no, I agree. Yeah, we're going to try to get a house. We're trying to get a house. So.
Oh, is this how you're going to get land and make a compound?
Yep. So anybody.
That's the word to use for it specifically, is a compound or a commune. But
that way we get Waco 10 times quicker.
Yeah. We
I'm
want to
thinking
militarize.
Artist colony. I think that's the phrase. That's the phrase I'm going for. Artist colony. But if you want to be one of the lucky few to live with us, reach out, invest. And
I would love nothing more.
Yeah, I think this one is actually going to happen. Believe it or not, I have faith in this one. My will is directed towards materializing some of this work.
At the very least, there will be some sort of physical manifestation at the end of this. A lot of what the fuck? I need to stop looking at the chat, honestly.
I know.
This is gonna bridge into a different idea, but like I think there's a lot of power in like if you are to create anything online, just to like reject interaction with the medium you propagate on.
Yeah. You can't worry about what these people will think because, they're just in this web of mutual worrying about what the other will think, and you know how it is.
The masses. I struggle because I have some great fans, and I don't mean to talk about them. It's like when women say, like, I hate men. That's how I feel when I have to talk about fans. It's like, but drama. There was something I wanted to share with you. Do you know Osho?
I've heard of him.
He's a guru, and he has a wonderful little bit on Wilhelm Reich that I thought I would share with you. This is a strange book. Oh,
I have read that, but if you would like to go again, I'd love to hear it a second time.
For the people. It's a beautiful part. This is a strange book. Nobody reads it. You may not have even heard about it, yet it was written in America. The book is Listen, Little Man by Wilhelm Reich. It is a very small book, but it reminds one of the Sermon on the Mount. Tao Te Ching, thus spake Zarathustra, the prophet. In reality, Reich was not of that status to write such a book, but he must have been possessed by some unknown spirit. It's a highly complimentary piece. I love his ideas on it, and just he talks about how he has rediscovered Tantra. It's great.
Yeah, there are some inaccuracies with technicalities, but that doesn't really matter. But it's a nice piece for sure.
Rediscovering the ideas, of course, and perhaps not just in practice. Also, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bother you, but the mic is still a bit loud, just to maintain the order.
How's this?
Much better. Sorry, I'm not trying to harass. The last one was good.
I'm in the middle of Listen, Little Man right now. It is definitely indicative of a degree of like spiritual stature that I wouldn't have necessarily slotted some of the other Freudians at. There's some good ones, but
no doubt, I think, and that's why Jung and Reich are the ones who've been written off, because they reached the highest points.
It feels like I've been recently looking at a lot of like as I like look up different names to kind of familiarize myself with viewpoints of. I built this whole matrix around fucking what's the book around fanged nomina, however you say that.
Yeah,
Numina, fanged numina. I built this matrix of people that I was like familiar with, but I was trying to like build connections between them, and I really do see. As you look into them, the most like common readings you see through almost every academic press is like it'll ascribe religious. At this point they went too religious, or like ascribe basically like this sort of any dabbling in spirituality has to get boxed into this thing that's like a read off, and it feels so like counterintuitive to maybe trying to like really understand the intent of what was going on in that moment, as opposed to like I don't fucking know, man.
Drama, I was curious, have you read Lacan at all? Do you have any thoughts on him?
Well, let me just flip my hot dogs, and I will answer that in a second.
I want to see this meal, man. Now I'm like, I'm hearing the glasses clink. I'm like, feels like I'm ready to eat.
We need a glizzy check.
All right.
That is the number one hot dog meme right now.
As for Lacan, I've never read anything or listened to his lectures, but I met a Lacanian at a wedding once, and we got into discussion about sex economy and Lacan's ideas, and he told me that if I divest from the Oedipus complex, I would die.
Was that personal, or was that like generalized remark?
A generalized scientific statement that you die if you divest. And I said to him, well, Wilhelm Reich, got many people to divest. If you can redirect that energy into a genital relationship with a real partner who's not, an imago of your parent, then all these wonderful things happen. You observe orgone energy and all this wonderful stuff. And then I mentioned that you've got the different societies where there's matrilineal descent, and they don't have Oedipus complex, and he could not really say anything to that. And
nah, bro, the sexual relationship does not exist. What are you talking about? Sex isn't real. It can't happen. You are never going to have any real contact.
Yeah, that's one thing I've heard. And they all, whenever I hear one of them talk, they all have this sick, like morbid thing about themselves. Like they feel good that they have come to these hopeless conclusions. They say like, oh, you can never really have sex because you will always just be masturbating with yourself. I'm sure I've heard Zizek say that, and that's just not true scientifically.
Also, put the mic up a bit. Now I'm like giving you. People are saying you're really quiet. I know we got to hear you, but no. See, this is the kind of discourse that we need. Reichian anti-Lacanian action.
Yeah, so it seems like what they've tried to do is make a labyrinth for themselves that they could follow any line of questioning that psychoanalysis never completed to some end, and they think they've figured it all out. That's what I get from them.
I think Paglia puts it perfectly in the very beginning of Sexual Personae. She says Freud was wrong to focus so much on language. Jung was correct about the unconscious being, it communicates primarily in imagery. And then Lacanians, of course, are like, Freud, he didn't do enough with words. He didn't do enough about language. And I think that's, I mean, I think it's a very dangerous field if as I think what a lot of modern like PC theorists are like worship of the written word as a Western thing. But that's actually applicable for Lacanians. They worship the word, and it's just a complete misunderstanding. Whereas Jung, in his interest in imagery, and even Paglia, retains that Reichian energetic basis of imagery, whereas in Lacan, like words are stripped of energy.
I actually was fucking reading about Derrida like a bit earlier today, but from what I know of linguistics, the like love for language 1950s onward feels like a hyper focus on it as kind of like the basis of a lot of structure of thought, yet it's also like a simultaneous hatred for it as a unit, and this sort of like mental clusterfuck of like trying to take away all meaning of like hierarchical structure and how sentences are composed, yet putting all of the value of how information can be transmitted into this, because it's like I don't know, it's easy to like look at the universality of language and how it develops.
Well, it seems like language has been getting worse throughout history. As we have more machines, we have just more verbiage and empty bullshit that we say. Memes are an evidence of this. But a lot of the time, language just serves to, like Wilhelm Reich once said, a lot of language is a hollow movement of the neck and mouth musculature that its only purpose is to repress, the pathologies that have afflicted these regions. And I mean, that's obviously, if you raise a child without language, they will be greatly deprived. But I mean, what can we say today? There's almost nothing left to say. But I'm just gonna keep talking anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that language does play a very vital role, and that it is capable of providing energetic patterns. I think it's infinitely capable of intensely powerful work that, quite simply, I think this is my real split from Reich, is that we cannot get a organotic culture. Culture will have to continue as it is, but with an awareness of organotics. So if you can have what I talked about in my sex magic video, like if you can utilize sexuality and you can utilize language without a moralistic repression, but utilizing language, applying language and applying energetics, I think there's a lot more utility. I think it's a lot more than simply, I think culture is more than a lost cause. And I think that is really one of Reich's most undeveloped ideas when he talks about, at the same time, he is decrying the kind of neurotic investment, the obsessive nature of the artist, while at the same time heightening Goethe and various musicians and saying, well, this is just a natural output of an energetic person. I think it is naturally intertwined. There has to be a degree of neurosis to produce art. This is something my girlfriend and I talk about quite a bit, because she goes to a classical school where they have to do extremely repetitive actions again and again to get to a hyper-realistic style of artwork. This would not be possible without that kind of neurotic fixation.
You're right. And it's good that you pointed out that inconsistency, the simultaneous praising of art, and then also realizing that it's, in some cases, a way to cope with other dysfunctions. And they both hold true.
Yeah, I think, you can almost see it. You can almost see which art is utilizing the neurosis, and which one is merely a product of a neurosis.
This
And
makes
memes.
Yeah, I was gonna say like there isn't a massive wave of. I feel the memes have almost like accelerated a particular type of neuroses that you don't see a lot of internet artists that are at the levels, and you could make a couple counter arguments for like the democratization of media has spread it out more, so you're seeing like less pinpricks or less like peaks of the distribution. But I do think and I'm going to relate this even to like if we were to gather an enormous amount of people, getting internet artists who are actively producing things through the different social media platforms, you're going to see that to do that regularly at the speed one would need to do to maintain a brand, they're going to be pretty fucked up. Like, yeah, I think most influencers are a type of artist. That's a bit of a pitch, but
well, then I guess we'll have to discover, and we'll have to very clearly provide the means with which to keep them from being too fucked up, especially in the house. Like we'll have to calm them down. We'll have to have. That's why I want to have like a shooting range. We've got to have festivals, like musical and dancing and fires and stuff to release, to put out energy.
I think there's a balance that hasn't really been tapped into though. I see a lot like the normative Gen Z lifestyle is pretty degenerate. That's gonna get some responses, but like there's a reason that like eat hot chip and fucking juuling and a lot of things. It's not with maintaining the body and mind and spirit in respect, but I do think there is a way to like wield certain practices and still maintain the connection to the memetic labyrinth that hasn't really been discovered yet, or if it has, it's by a limited few.
Well, I completely agree. But we're about to end the stream. We're about to reach an hour. I'm thinking these will just be an hour long. So if anybody has a question that they want us to cover, now is the time. Do the darn super chat, support our endeavors, or forever hold your peace. Yes. So I think this was a good one. Thank you for coming on, Drama. This has been wonderful. I would like to have you on more.
Thank you, Chris, for having me. It was a pleasure. I'd love to do another stream with you or with whoever else you want, Mr. Chapman.
Sure.
Nice to meet you, Drama. I've seen y'all discuss before, so I'm honored to be within the center mediation.
Yeah, we need to make like more creative. Maybe like other streaming services will allow for more creative positioning. We could make sigil work, just through positionality.
Certainly, that's
wait. I want to say hello to Jose, my research partner in the North Florida Libidinally Kami Research Group. Hello, Jose. I love you. I hope you're doing well.
I love the streams because I think they bring out a lot of the best people. I use OBS sometimes, but OBS is weird on the Mac. I don't know. I'm also probably just stupid. I don't use computers much, so I pretty much know how. All he know is Paint.net for editing images for the videos and Premiere. That is all that I know, and even then, I'm not that good at it. But that's what I do. I'll finish off with a question. I'll finish off with a good one, which is meme analysis. What made you believe in magic? That's a great question. It was Kristen. Get over here, or are you already over it? Did you listen to it while you were driving? I'm getting picked up. I'm going out immediately. Her laundry is here. I'm gonna have a nice time. Anyway, magic. I have 1 minute. Why I believed in magic. So I discovered magic through David Bowie. David Bowie I consider to be one of the greatest artists who was able to utilize energy and symbolism in a way that I found very few other artists had done. He was the ultimate example of a great modern artist who was capable of utilizing this stuff. Like, I don't give a fuck about Led Zeppelin. Like, Led Zeppelin doesn't know shit about Aleister Crowley. Obviously, Jimmy Page acted like it, but he gave up on it because he's a bad magician. So I pursued the tarot. I pursued Kabbalah. And a great deal of personal instances, a great deal of personal working, and the coming up of repressed emotions. And it was very clear. It was very clearly true. It worked. It works. Magic. It works. Thank you all for coming on. It's been a wonderful stream, and we're all signing off. Be well, everybody.
Peace be with you.
And also with you.